Hi guys, it's Joe Tommaso from the 15 Minutes With podcast. Our show is geared toward helping to keep not only teens but people in general out of our jails and prisons. Our show is unique in the fact that we use real inmates throughout the country and they explain not only about the cases that caused their incarceration, but why it's so important for people to stay out of prison and remain free. Speaking of free, have you heard about the newest and best way to put your podcast out there for the world to hear? Let me tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to produce and distribute your ideas, your podcast, and the best part, it's free. There's even a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so people can hear it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other listening platforms. You can even make money from your podcast, and there are no minimal amount of listeners required. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started. This is take two, guys. Hey, and welcome to the 15 Minutes with True Crime podcast. My name is Joe Tommaso. We're going to be doing this a little bit different today. Obviously, you can tell usually 15 Minutes with is broadcast via audio only. Today, because of this letter and these legal documents, we are going to be broadcasting in video. So if you like the show and would like to see it get better, please donate to paypal.me/Joe Tommaso. That is paypal.me/JoeTomaso. And if there's anybody you would like me to try and interview, or if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email me at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Again, that's insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Or you can snail mail me through the good old post office at P.O. Box 162, West Haven, Connecticut 06516. So today's show, what's different about it? We're going to be talking about this letter that I got from Jeffrey Epstein's former cellmate that's going to put to rest the rumors, innuendos, etc. about his suicide or non-suicide. Then, after that, we're going to have a second video, which is also going to be in video, not in audio. And we're going to be talking about this house, this arrest warrant, and Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell. So, let's get on with this. So, I got a letter from Nick Tartaglia, who is a former Briarcliff Manor police officer who I actually know from my days working in New York as a paramedic. Nick is currently facing trial on a quadruple homicide, and he was Jeffrey Epstein's cellmate while Jeffrey Epstein and Nick Tartaglia were both in the SHU, or the Special Housing Unit at MCC New York. So let's get on with the letter. I'm going to have to look down at this. I'm also going to pause this at times so I can, get different things up for you guys. So, Joe, hey, got your letter. Sorry about the kidney infection. Obviously, you guys know I was in the hospital and the show was off the air for a couple weeks. I got a severe kidney infection, wound up becoming septic and in the hospital for a good 12 to 14 days. It was really bad. But anyways, so this damn virus has stopped the courts, but God willing, my trial will still happen before the end of the year. I'm 100% innocent, Joe, and because of that simple fact, we have a great deal of very compelling evidence that will prove just that. I find it hard to believe the prosecutors actually really believe that I'm guilty of these charges when the other bald weightlifting cop killed himself, or when the guy who worked on my animal rescue confessed. It would have been a good time to admit you arrested the wrong man, but I've been told that they never admit when they're wrong, which is true. We will show them at trial. I haven't seen too much about Epstein on TV. We've been locked down for almost 6 months, so I mostly read and listen to my little radio that you wind up to power instead of using batteries. Okay, you want to know the truth about Epstein? I will tell you what I know. Here's the whole story. It was early July, and I was in shoe because I was found to have a cell phone in my cell. It was stupid of me. I had gotten one, but you only get one phone call a day for 10 minutes. I really miss my family, so I got one. Never again. I hate the box. I was sharing a cell with a drug addict when a guard came to my cell and said, "Tartaglia, we gotta move you." I asked where and why. He said, "We're going to put you in a cell with Jeff Epstein, the billionaire." I had never heard of him. The guard said, we need to put him in with somebody who won't hurt him or shake him down. They brought me to an empty cell, and I lay down on a bunk and began reading. A few hours later, they opened the cell door and put Epstein in and closed the door. Epstein stayed back by the door, and he looked really frightened. He said, "They told me you're a good guy and you won't hurt me." I told him, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'm just trying to get home." He walked forward, put out his hand, and while shaking my hand, he said, "I'm Jeff. What are you charged with?" I answered, "I'm Nick, quadruple homicide." He got scared and backed right up to the cell door. I told him that I'm innocent, and regardless of whether he believed me or not, he would be safe. He told me he was charged with crimes he had already done time for, and he was in jail again because of politics. I told him that his case was his business, and he didn't need to discuss it with me or anybody else. The next day, the guards brought me my newspapers that my family ordered from me. At MCC, you don't get the papers on a daily basis. They usually bring you a dozen or so at one time, and it's usually 2 weeks behind. Well, when I got the Post and the Daily News, Epstein was on the front page of all of them. Epstein had read them as well and said the papers were lying. He said the youngest girl he was ever with was 16 years old. So Epstein admitted being with a 16-year-old. I told him that unless that was 50 years ago, it was disgusting. The papers all mentioned Epstein's connection to Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, and Prince Andrew. Epstein said he had not talked to Trump since the 90s when Trump threw him out of a party because Epstein was flirting with somebody's daughter. Epstein claimed that Clinton never went with any of the girls that he knew. He said Clinton liked women older than himself. If that's still true, the pickings must be getting slim. I thought that was kind of comical. Epstein said that Alan Dershowitz was anywhere near any girl, and he was always a professional. Epstein did say that Andrew should have been arrested a long time ago. He said that a girl disappeared years ago after being with Andrew, and the girl was young. Epstein got a lot of mail, mostly from strangers asking for money. I felt bad for him for that. In 2 weeks, not one letter from an actual friend or loved one. Even some rabbi wrote him a letter that spoke of finding strength in God and all that, but the letter ended with the rabbi asking for a donation of $20,000. Epstein never mentioned suicide until his bail was denied. His bail hearing was on a Friday, and before leaving the cell, he said, "Okay, Nick, it was good meeting you. Good luck at trial." I remember thinking to myself, "You're not going to get bail," but I simply said, "Good luck." I was right. Later that day, Epstein was back in the cell, and he was crushed. That night, he was crying and pacing and basically saying, "Why me?" I tried to explain to him that I was a cop who had been given the possibility of being executed for crimes I had absolutely nothing to do with, so please quiet down. He did, but a little while later, he asked me what was the best way to commit suicide in jail. I told him I didn't know and get the idea out of his head. Later that same night, I woke up to some strange noises. I saw Epstein hanging from a window grate using a strip of bed sheet. I grabbed the razor we had from shaving and cut the sheet. Most guys in the box will break a disposable razor open and use the blade to cut hair or fingernails. He wasn't hanging long and he seemed to be okay. I was really angry. I explained to him that A, I do not want any human being killing themselves near me, and B, if Epstein were to be found dead in my cell, the prosecutors would wind up blaming me. Epstein was crying and said he wanted to die. I told him to call the prison shrink. He was afraid they would put him into a suicide watch. He swore he wouldn't try it again. Stupid me, I believed him. The next morning, they took me out for a shower. While I was in the shower, the orderlies and the guards brought our breakfast trays to our cells. When I got back to the cell, my breakfast was gone. I asked, Jeff, where's my breakfast? Epstein replied, I ate it. I was starving. They give us so little. I explained to him that some guys in here will kill you for that. Epstein's response was, I'll pay you. I told him, Jeff, I don't want your money. Don't eat my food anymore. He never did again. A few days later, Epstein said, I have a business proposition for you. What? I asked. He offered me $3 million if I would kill him quickly. I had to laugh and told him absolutely not. That night I woke up and found Epstein making another noose. I took it from him and I flushed it down the toilet. One time I asked him how he made so much money. He said he knows a good investment when he sees one. I asked him to explain. His answer was disturbing. He said it's like when you have a line of women in front of you and you immediately know which one you want to fuck. It's just like that. I left that alone. In order to keep Epstein from trying to hang himself from the window grate, I took my mattress and I put it on the floor. Now, if he wanted to get to the grate, he would have to step on either me or my mattress. On the last night that Epstein was in my cell, he asked me about my animal rescue organization. I asked him how he knew about that, and he went over to his legal work and took some photocopied articles about me out. I asked him why he was looking me up, and he said, I want to help you. He then offered to put $3 million on my rescues account. I told him I wasn't going to allow him to hurt himself, so if that's where he was headed for, forget it. He said, Nick, if I don't kill myself, they will go after people I love. He said he would put the money on my rescues account if I would simply remain asleep tomorrow night. I told him absolutely not, and tomorrow I was going to ask to get moved or ask them to move him. I was exhausted from having to sleep with one eye open every night. Being charged with murders you didn't commit and having the death penalty over your head is stressful enough. That night, Epstein fell asleep while I was reading. He started snoring like a buzzsaw, so I took my earbuds from my radio and I put them in my ears to buffer the noise. I fell asleep, and later that night I felt something hit my leg. At first I thought it was a rat. By the way, they have rats and bugs and all that kind of stuff at MCC New York inside of the cells. It's terrible, terrible conditions there. So he put them in and he... Okay. At first, I thought it was a rat, but when I pulled the blanket off my head, I saw it was Epstein. He was on the ground next to my mattress. His eyes were open, but he wasn't responsive. He had a strip of bed sheet around his neck, and the other half was tied to the top part of the bunk's ladders. You're an EMT, so you know the look when someone's gone. He had it. I began pounding on the steel door and screaming for medical. He started doing the death snore. He came so close to dying. Staff showed up and cuffed me up and came in. I offered to assist in CPR, but nobody performed it. They took him out. I read somewhere that they dropped him on his face. That is simply not true. The next day, a guard came to my cell and told me that Epstein was saying I had attacked him. I was really mad at myself for letting him get so far. Hindsight being 20/20, I think his snoring was a ruse so I would use my earbuds. I was lucky though. If his new sheet didn't break, I wouldn't have woken up and Epstein would be dead in my cell and Comey would have blamed me. The news from the radio was saying that someone had leaked that Epstein was saying I attacked him. A few days later, I went down to legal to meet with my lawyers. Epstein was in the room next to mine. He was standing at the door looking at me through the window. He mouthed, I'm sorry, and rubbed his fingers together, indicating he would pay me. My answer to him was 2 words, and they weren't Merry Christmas. About 2 weeks later, at around 5:30 to 6 in the morning, I heard a female yelling, and then I heard somebody yelling, breathe, Epstein. I knew what that meant. Later that day, the news from the radio confirmed he was dead. At least they couldn't blame me now. I was cleared shortly after that of any wrongdoing. 1 down, 1 to go. Epstein was a creep and a liar and a pedophile. After everything and all his money, he died alone with no one really giving a damn. There was no Mossad, no Clinton hit team. Epstein was a selfish, creepy man who reaped what he sowed. Despite his charges, I was kind to him, and he was willing to accuse me with more crimes I didn't commit, simply so he wouldn't have to spend a few weeks on suicide watch. Well, Joe, that's the scoop on Epstein as far as I was involved. Don't listen to the stories. The first night Epstein was alone and not on suicide watch, he killed himself. I asked him if he had any family, and he said he had a brother he wasn't close to. All that money and no one to really share it with. The man owned 3 helicopters, a few airplanes, mansions, even an island, but not one person wrote to him out of love. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Keep in touch, and I'll be home sooner than later, Nick. So there you have it. This is the letter about Epstein. He obviously didn't commit suicide. Nick Tartaglia did not attack him. Matter of fact, Nick Tartaglia was offered $3 million multiple times and turned it down. So I hope you guys get some information out of this that you can use. And I'm going to end this video now. If you want to keep this show going and would like to see it get better, please donate to paypal.me/Joe Tomaso. Again, that's paypal.me/Joe Tomaso. You can email me if you have any questions, suggestions, comments. If you want to see me try to interview somebody, you can email me at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Again, that's insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Or you can snail mail me at P.O. Box 162, West Haven, Connecticut 06516. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Also, hey, if you want, can you please, it's free, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help me out so more people can see this video. And I wanted to thank you all for watching. And the next video coming up is going to be about the arrest and apprehension of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is Epstein's partner in crime. Thanks for watching 15 Minutes with True Crime Podcast. I'm Joe Tomaso.